videos to the 1-year anniversary 3 again. Because you guys are getting a bonus video this week. I'd love to say it's because I'm celebrating 1 awesome year on YouTube, but honestly, it's because I'm not satisfied with how Sunday's video turned out. You guys deserved better than what I put out last time. This week, you will be getting this video in addition to Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. I don't know how I'm going to pull this off in this time frame, but I will come hell or high water. So let's try to hit 4,000 subscribers before Sunday together. I can only keep doing as I've been doing. If we're going to hit this goal, you guys are going to need to like and share these videos more than ever. If y'all want to make memes about the channel and post them to Reddit groups and chats, now's the time. If we can just maintain 30 subs a day till Sunday, we can hit 4K in just 1 year. Let's do it. My channel began with a review of Siege, and here we are, almost exactly 1 year later looking at the final chapter. I originally intended for this channel to cover TV and movies, so I still have a lot of thoughts on them. Let's deep dive into the story of Kingdom, because it's just coherent enough to trick people into thinking it's actually coherent. Like, it's putting on the facade of something that makes sense when it couldn't be further from the truth. For instance, the Maximals attack the Autobots because they think they're Nemesis, which is really confusing. It doesn't make sense that they think they're Nemesis Prime because he's a single guy, and it's not like he rolls with an entourage. It's not like there's a bunch of him, he's even a different color. And they established in the previous season that a character's color layout is a huge part of what distinguishes a Cybertronian, so they shouldn't have been able to visually mistake them for Nemesis Prime. So this is just to have an excuse to have a bad resolutionless fight because that's what's expected in these team-ups. But it gets even dumber because the implication from the end of episode 2 is that the Maximals never thought the Autobots were Nemesis. They intentionally had Airraiser get captured in the hopes that they could convince the Autobots to help them free her. And you wouldn't assault a position with an unknown adversary where you could potentially lose while sacrificing a soldier to intentional capture. Since if you did lose, you'd just be dooming that unit to a pointless death. You'd need the manpower to take on Nemesis anyways, so you'd have them help you assault the position and then get intentionally captured. Unless they knew from the beginning that the Autobots would be on their side. God, this show is dumb. But before we get any deeper into this, I'd like to point out that this season makes virtually half of the previous season pointless, since they don't actually save any of the characters that were caught in the explosion at the end of it. They all died, contributing nothing to the plot. If you cut their scenes and never bothered showing them after the Autobots left Cybertron and Siege, it would literally only make the show better and more streamlined. They could have either died from starvation between Siege and Kingdom, or they could have just ignored them completely. They added nothing and wasted time the show didn't have. Yes, it's better that this season ignored them because they would have just dragged it down as well, but man, this level of disrespect of the characters is just awe-inspiring. I'd like to point out that in his speech to the Maximals about the Autobot travels, Optimus mentions that they went through the dead universe, but later, Rhinox is having trouble fixing the ship because he doesn't know that they went through the dead universe, and when Ratchet says that they did, he derides them for not telling him sooner. They already did, but the writer can't remember what he wrote. And I mean, it's not like there's only like 10 minutes between the two and not even that much dialogue because of how languidly paced it is. Also, it doesn't make sense that Optimus Primal is named Optimus Primal since from his timeline, Optimus Prime is a disgraced traitor who destroyed Cybertron by being a moron. People like that don't tend to have things named after them. So let me get this straight. Beast Wars Megatron stole the golden disc that held a secret message from G1 Megatron that no one knew about before he stole it, so he could give it to G1 Megatron, who he couldn't know the location of till he had decoded the golden disc, which can only be decoded by G1 Megatron. There are so many loops in that logic, and the only way it works is if you don't think about it at all. And Beast Wars Megatron did all of this to let an alternate reality Megatron win the war and not help himself in any way, since time travel creates alternate realities in this continuity and would not improve the state of Cybertron in the reality Beast Wars Megatron comes from. They explicitly established this. But in the previous season, Galvatron wants to use time travel to prevent Megatron from becoming him so Galvatron doesn't have to live a life of slavery to Unicron. So in this one show, we are outright told time travel works two completely exclusionary ways. One cannot be true and yet also have the other be true. People think this season is well written, yet there are logical gaps a novice wouldn't suffer. Why is it that when Starscream hears a voice in a populated ship, he just starts firing blindly around the room out of fear? That is literally an insane thing to do. Oh my god, someone else is on my ship full of people! That's impossible! I need to kill whoever it is because they're not supposed to be here! Dinobot tried to shoot Beast Wars Megatron in his face, and Megatron just let it slide like it was a minor infraction. And it doesn't work because Black Arachnia somehow removed the ammo from his gun, which doesn't make sense for 2 reasons. 1, it would be basically impossible to do that without him noticing, and 2, it wouldn't matter because you know what Dinobot has? Fucking laser eyes! Your gun didn't work, bro! Fucking blast him anyways! Why did Dinobot electrocute Airraiser? He said he was following orders, but he was not ordered to electrocute her. They keep giving Megatron visions this season, but they never amount to anything. He never learns anything from them, he never changes, eventually they just stop and he's exactly the same as he was before them. So these are completely and utterly superfluous. Why is Dinobot so damn wordy when he's got a gun shoved in his face? Say, I want to help you, and then shut up! Starscream should have blown his head off halfway through that speech. Why is it Megatron's ability to tell the future, which is stated to be absolutely flawless, despite the fact that that would require him to keep unbelievably excessive notes on events he wasn't present for, has these weird blind spots? And they are specifically blind spots he shouldn't have. For instance, he knows where the Maximals are going to be despite the fact that they shouldn't exist in the timeline the Golden Disc is from, so he should only know where the Autobots are going to be. But he doesn't know Mirage is going to save Air Racer, a prisoner he wouldn't have in the Golden Disc's creation timeline, but he did know that Rat Trap was going to be there. So somehow he knew about who he shouldn't and didn't know about who he should. So he has a power stated to be flawless that is shown to be flawed, but they continue to treat it as though it were flawless, meaning that from the writer's perspective, it was flawless even though we, the audience, know it's not. Your boss put a Predacon in command of you. So yes you do, motherfucker! You don't get to say, no, you're one of our descendants, so therefore I don't like you and won't obey. And do I really have to point out that even though he doesn't like taking orders from a Predacon, shouldn't the Decepticons really want to kill their enemies, the Autobots? If someone you hated told you to eat a really nice cake when you were actually really hungry and you thought it looked good, would you tell them no and get pissy about it because they're the ones to tell you to do it? And then Megatron attacks his own men instead of killing the Autobots and Maximals himself. Just cause they aren't shooting doesn't mean you can't, dude. So Air Racer got herself captured so she could place trackers on the Predacons and Decepticons so she could track them to the Allspark, which the Maximals didn't know was on the planet before the Autobots told them. So she went on a mission that didn't exist until after the mission was over. Oh, but let us not forget that it's completely pointless that she did that. Optimus Prime can just sense where the Matrix is, so they have no need of her trackers. They could have just cut out the plot about the trackers and freed up the entire second episode to better fix the story. Or they could have just not given Prime the power to sense the Matrix. That way, the tracker plot did become pointless. There were two ways for this not to be a problem, and they chose neither. Why did Galvatron even want Megatron to have the Matrix? It literally never does anything that helps him. At best, all it does is mess with his mind for no reason. You know, it occurs to me, what is the point of setting this show on Earth? Nothing about it ever factors in. It could have been any planet in the universe. They removed the Allspark millions of years before humans exist, and apparently any trace of it disappears with them, which is exceptionally shocking considering it apparently makes buildings around itself for some reason, which it didn't do back when it was on Cybertron. Somehow, it's messing with the trees on the planet, and you'd think it couldn't mess with the biological material, but I guess it just can for reasons. And again, there's just no point. Why is this Earth? There's no reason other than, hey look, our planet. Oh look, Cog. Oh my god! What the fuck happened to the Quintesson? They heavily implied it got away last season, but it's just gone in this one too. Boy, Cog had such a depressing death, I'm shocked that it wasn't undone. Honestly, you could just not watch Earthrise. The whole season is pointless. The only information you need from it is that Megatron chased after the Autobots, also crashed his ship, and they are also trying to get the Allspark back, and that's it. It pretty much makes exactly as much sense with or without Earthrise. Huh. Dinobot loses to Starscream. Never knew I needed something in my life so little. This version of Dinobot is just leeching off the original interpretation. You are only made to care because it's Dinobot. Nothing he even does suggests that he's a warrior or that he values his honor. He says he's a warrior once, and that's really it. And then somehow he dies from a pretty wimpy attack by Megatron. Since when has Soundwave had this power? Why was Megatron invisible when he didn't have the cloaking device yet? How did the Megatrons not track Dinobot by the horrible blood trail he was leaving? Also, while the hallucinations are just messing with everyone else, they are just helping Prime because no established reason that you wouldn't have to infer yourself. And if you have to make up the reason yourself, it doesn't exist. I like how Dinobot was apparently 10 feet away from Optimus Prime, but they needed a beam of light to connect the two for them to notice. Why are the Maximals confused as to what the Allspark is when it's literally gone down in history that Prime getting rid of it destroyed the planet? That's like asking what is the sun? Why the fuck doesn't Optimus just show the Allspark to the Matrix? It keeps asking to see it, and he keeps fighting them rather than just showing it. Then he pulls a Martha by saying his name is Optimus Prime, and the fight's over because the Allspark hears the name. How is this a trope now, and how is it in 2 consecutive seasons? Also, who called it that this would be an illusion? Why is the Allspark apparition sometimes solid and sometimes not? Why can Optimus stick a USB in a ghost to fix its dead universe corruption? This really implies Elita 1 is there, and that he's healing her, and that she can be saved. But no, she's just dead later in the season. So why bother with this scene where he fixes her dead universe infection with the code? Also, he wasn't there for that part. How does he know Rhinox knows how to fix a dead universe corruption? She literally just said she was going to kill Primal, and Beast Wars Megatron is like, how dare you conspire with Primal? How can the writer not remember what he wrote in the previous sentence? Why does the spirit of Elita tell Optimus that he has to lose and give Megatron the Matrix? How does that help? Megatron basically walks through the door and it just floats back to Optimus. What purpose did it serve to have this happen? They could have knocked him out and gone through the door themselves. All this does is be infuriating and waste time. And what is with this writer's obsession with Optimus being just completely unwilling to kill Megatron? Like killing Megatron would be some kind of bad thing. He contrives reason after reason after reason that Optimus never does it. And this is the dumbest of them all. Optimus could just walk up and tap Megatron in the face, but he doesn't because a ghost told him to give away the Matrix in a sequence of events that are as confusing as they are pointless. Why doesn't it let Megatron reach the Allspark? We are never told. Why does Megatron fall through the floor? No answer given. Why doesn't this kill him? Who knows? Why does the Matrix fly back to Optimus when it never did before? No explanation. Elita says she still functions but barely, and later she's just dead. Why did they repeatedly raise the ghost of her maybe being alive if she wasn't going to be? Boy, the Allspark giving Prime a power-up of some kind that caused him to float sure is important, isn't it? This absolutely comes back in some way at some point, right? Episode 5 is just actually good. Like, it's an enjoyable and uncomplicated 24 minutes of TV, but the entire opening sequence is pointless. Why do we need them to show us that the arc is still not working? We'd understand it's not working when it's still not later in the episode when it matters. Episode 6 is so tacked on, it's insane. For all intents and purposes, Galvatron and Nemesis Prime pop out of nowhere to become the main villains of the final episode and are the unifying force that causes the Autobots and Decepticons to end the war, despite the fact that they have essentially no presence up to this point, and the factions at no point have grown closer. If anything, the whole show is about how Megatron, and by extension the Decepticons, are becoming even worse and more irredeemable as he goes to further and further extremes to enact his vendetta. Did everyone just forget the fact that he genocided literally everyone on the planet, and the only survivors at the end of the series are visible in this one shot? That is every last remaining living individual on Cybertron because of what Megatron has done. But no, he decided that the war was over because he didn't want to become a slave. So it's okay, you guys, he's redeemed. Why the hell did they all just get sucked up into the dead universe again when all it did was teleport them straight back to Cybertron, the place they were heading and would have reached in seconds with or without the dead universe? Also, boy, the Ark's Titan mode sure had a point, didn't it? Because it's not coming back, you know, with all its 20 seconds of screen time it had. Why would you not take backup? Are you stupid? Wait, I know the answer to that. What did Bumblebee notice to walk off and find? He didn't find it, whatever it was. How did Galvatron levitate Megatron? Why would you just add the line about the Allspark building not existing when they left? It didn't need to be said, and it just causes pointless confusion. They imply Nemesis Prime put it there, but why would he do that? It only helps Optimus. The building didn't have to be there. If the point was to heal the Allspark with it so they could use it to free themselves, then why are they trying to steal it now and not just letting it be healed first? And if that wasn't the point, then why bring it? If seeing the Allspark could cause them torturous pain, then why are they trying to steal it? And if that's the case, then why aren't they in pain right now? If Unicron can notice them see it, then shouldn't he just know what they are doing right now? This scene didn't need to exist considering Megatron and Galvatron went loud when they left. Also, Megatron was so weakened at the start of episode 5, he couldn't even fire his cannon, and yet now he's somehow death on wheels again, because after all, he was put into a cryogenic prison to recover over the course of an afternoon. You saw Bumblebee had the Allspark. Why are you convinced Optimus has it? Why would Megatron ever consider screwing his universe, and more importantly, himself over, in order to help an alternate reality version of himself? That makes no sense, there's no temptation there. Imagine you meet an evil version of yourself who asks you to blow up our world so he can kill one dude in his post-apocalyptic world where your evil self is the only survivor simply because the other guy is mean to your evil self. What is supposed to make you want to do that? Boy, isn't it really climactic how literal ghosts just show up and teleport the villains away when there really wasn't any stakes left in the battle since none of the people fighting the villains had the Allspark and the villains didn't realize it? That's good writing right there. I have to have illustrated how this show is terribly written at this point. There is no way I failed by now. This is not a well-written piece of storytelling like many people seem to think it is. This is still really bad, like really badly written. And I only just covered this one issue. Every aspect of this show is getting more credit than it deserves. And I think I'll cover those too. But at least this time, that was more than 1/10 of what I had to say. But it's not half of what I have to say, though it is enough for one video. And I know you know what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So, if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.